Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Today's shir, Lili Nishma Asimi Rusbas Mordechai, and sponsored by Moshe Hirsch. Lili Nishmas, his grandfather, his first yard side, the Fray Menashe ben Chaim Yaakov Zechron Levracha and Shom should have an aliyah. He was an extremely busy businessman. He was an extremely busy businessman. First a caterer. Ooh, I like caterers. Then a hotel manager. And then a hotel owner. I like hotel owners. But he woke up every single day at 2:30 in the morning learning the daf at least 4 times a day. Rabbi Isai, I think Gary's not on yet. So if everybody could please mute. Pretty soon he'll get on and mute me. And I'll be talking to myself. But until that happens, Rabbi Isai, please mute. Steve, is it possible to mute? Shkoyach. Also sponsored by Andrew Fuchs for Refuah Shleima for Nachman ben Shendel, who's having surgery today. All right, Yishar Koyach, a real quick email. Still a bunch of people that are not muted. I know it's very difficult to find that button, but you could do it. I'm sure you could do it. You know what, Rabbi said, I'm gonna mute myself, and then when Gary, because I have to mute you guys because it's coming through, so I'm gonna mute you guys, but I want the feedback from the Olam. So eventually when Gary comes on and mutes everybody, let me know. Dear Rebbe, this very interesting email. I put it aside to read today, and then I realized that it's Negeya to today. This comes from Avi Sherman from Queens. He says, I really appreciate you allowing me to learn from you in person while you were staying in Queens. Please don't tell some of those Far Rockaway folks they're in Queens, as you might traumatize them. They're not in Queens, they're in Far Rockaway, the 5 towns. They have their own. He's right. Whatever virtual connection we may have had prior to your visit is now a real connection. And when you said the first night here, there are people you've never met but feel like you've known them for 40 years, the feeling is definitely mutual. It's amazing to see the energy, enthusiasm you have for learning Gemara and giving the shir even during the wee hours of the morning. And as much as I came to shir at midnight half asleep, I was wide awake, not just by the time the shir was over, but even only a minute into it, probably right after the good morning Rabbi Isai. On the Shana Rabbah night, when you recorded the double shir, the entire Chevra were there with you, agreed we could have gone for the third. It was beautiful. They were all there. And then he goes on, Rabbi, here, I can't read the entire thing. This is the whole, but I want to tell you I asked him why he sponsored Lili Nishmas, the Pittsburgh Rebbe, and he told me he had a very interesting story. Here it is, all in writing. I'm going to go through it really briefly. Basically, in 2002, he was laid off from his programming job. So he went to the Pittsburgh Rebbe. The Pittsburgh Rebbe told him, you should have an aliyah in your job. So he wasn't sure what that meant, aliyah in the job. Kitzer, within 6 weeks of getting the bracha, the same company that laid him off rehired him for double the salary as a consultant. And he went from the 5th floor to the 20th floor. Oh, what are you telling me? Gary's here? Okay, pausing. Beseder, I'm back on. I guess there's no way for him to do it without muting me. Okay, Beseder. I thought he does it up dafka. Now I see that there's no way out of it. Great. So anyways, he had 2 aliyahs. One was double salary. Second, he went to the 20th floor. Bekitzer, and then later on, they told him he doesn't even have to go, different job maybe, he doesn't have to come into work, which was, 90 minutes, 90 miles. Just stay at home, go to Aliyah Sagah, go to your attic, work there, and the Mela, the Pittsburgh Rebbe was Mamish, Mechaven Ela Emes, Gevaldik. In Tzchus of the tremendous job you do the entire crew, MDY, literally spreading Torah throughout the globe. May you and your respective families continued bracha and atzlacha in all that you do. It's to you, Noam, to you, Yosef, to you, Yeshua, Gary, even you. Should see tremendous atzlacha. I wish you a safe trip back to Chicago and ultimately home to Eretz Yisrael. And look forward to learning from you via YouTube and hopefully also back on Zoom when you're zoomed in night chair. That's already a different story. First, let's get the 8-minute daf up and running. Then we'll give the rest to Yossi Rudinsky, and I'll call you B'Seder Avi Sherman Yishur Koyach. All right, so why did I say it's Neget? Because today's Mishnah, we learn about Aliyah, what Avi mentioned here. Just go back here. Okay. Am I too far away from the Moshe Hirsch and Fuchs? I don't know. Today, Rabbi Yisai. And real quickly, Mark Ashkenazi let me know that his father came out of the hospital. Baruch Hashem. That was a long one, like maybe close to 4 weeks. Well, 3 weeks, let's say. So he should have a complete recovery or full shlema. Also, talking about Mark Ashkenazi, Uncle Phil, he started, the ideas are coming in. Rabbi Yisai, listen to this idea. If you have better ones, let us know. For Eruvin, different groups, different cities should go see their local Eruv, take a video of it, send it in. Or another idea he had was that we could do some sort of, put up a picture of Eruvin or something like that and let different cities try to figure out what the picture is, and whoever wins gets a certain, maybe you get unmuted on Zoom, you get whatever, different stuff. We'll fly you into MDY, I don't know what. All right, come up with some ideas to make the Siyum exciting and interesting, and just like Avrumi Leibovitz was Zoicha, and we had such an unbelievable experience, Halavai, the next one as well. So, today is Daf Ayin Beis. It's Rish Chodesh, well, maybe by you guys not so much in Israel. It's the beginning of the winter's man. It's a tremendous, we just went, beginning of a 6-month man, unbelievable. And we're here on the bottom of Ayin Aleph Amud Beis, discussing the idea of Shituf Mavos and Eruv Chatzeros, one of the same, not one of the same. What if you do a Shituf for your Mavoi to allow you to go from your Chatzer to the Mavoi to the alley? Is that enough for an Eruv as well? So we have 2 lines from the bottom. Reb Nechumi v'Rabba. Chad Omar bepas the kuli al maloi pligi. One of the two say, we're going to have this twice today. We don't know exactly who says what, but we know that they argued. Chad Omar bepas. If you use bread, the kuli al maloi pligi the bechad esagi. One bread is enough for both shituf and both an eruv. Ki pligi. Where does Rameir say that's not enough? The yayin. So the svara would be that there's a concept called the migui. Now, we know that for an eruv, wine doesn't work. You need bread. But a shituf, maybe if you're using the wine for the shituf, and it works for a shituf, so once it's working for the shituf, we'll allow it also to work for the eruv. Typically, it doesn't work for an eruv, but it's already working. You already got it to go. It's already accomplishing something for your mavoi. Let it accomplish for the eruv as well. That's the machloikis. Pligi b'yayin. V'chad omar, top of ayin beis Amud Aleph. V'chad omar b'yayin the kulam loy pligi d'bin tarte. Yayin, wine, doesn't work for an eruv. Everybody agrees. Ki pligi b'pas. According to Rameir, bread is not enough for both the shituf and the eruv. What about Noam?
You were muted, so I unmuted you. Now you could hear us.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering what you're doing there. I know that when you're on there, it's good. I thought that there was an issue with internet. How's the YouTube today? It's better because I feel bad. Yesterday, after Shir, they told me the YouTube wasn't good. There was a way for me to fix it. I forgot to get it off my home's Wi-Fi because we had two devices on one Wi-Fi is never good, Zoom and YouTube. So now I'm just going straight from Brian, and hopefully that's better. Yisrael, where's Yisrael? He's in charge of YouTube, telling me if it's good. What?
I couldn't do it for you because it's on your phone, not on your computer.
I know, but somebody could just tell me in middle shir, and I could get up and fix it. It's better than having okay, so they're saying it's better today. Great. I mean, I sat in this room because the Verizon is better here, and I forgot to turn off my Wi-Fi. I'm staying in this room. This is sakana. I could get attacked any minute by a mini leopard, and for no reason. All right, keep pligi b'pas. So the whole machlokes is when you already did a shituf with a loaf of bread, is that bread good enough for the eruv or not? Rebbe says it's not good. You need to make another eruv. Meisvei. So we just said that the top line here, when it comes to wine, everybody agrees that you need another eruv. Wine is not good for a shituf and an eruv. That's what one man d'Omer says. Meisvei. Ma'arvim means l'chayra, you take the bread and go with it for everything. Or oy mishtatvim means you'll take the wine and use just the wine for the shituf and the eruv. My love, oy ma'arvin b'chotzer b'pas. Either you just use bread, or mishtatvim b'movim b'yayin. In other words, wine alone is enough. Gary, is that you? Somebody's still on, unmuted. I hear them a little bit. Bekitzer, so from here, l'chayr, you see that wine is enough. One bottle of wine will accomplish two things, a shituf and an eruv. Not like the top line of this amud that says, b'yayin de kula amud loy pligi de be'in and tarti, that you need wine and bread. It's not enough to do just wine. Rav Gidl, so Rav Gidl says the name of Rav Harikamar. You learned it a little bit off. You thought that mishtatfa means with wine and wine is enough. No, we're talking about just bread. Either start off with the eruv, but it was with bread. Of course, eruv is always with bread, and it works for both eruv and shituf. We thought the word shituf means typically you could do a shituf with wine. So we thought it meant that he did it with wine, and it seems like wine is enough for a shituf and eruv. No, he did a shituf, but he used the superior product, which is bread. And that's why it works for two things. And that's why if you use bread, it's good for a shituf and it's good for an eruv. Omar Rav Yehuda, Omar Rav. Halacha k'Rabbi Meir. So Rav says, the halacha is like Rabbi Meir. You need two things, you have to do two. You can't just get away with one for both a shituf and an eruv. You need a shituf alone and an eruv by itself. Rav Huna Omar Mino k'Rabbi Meir. Rabbi said, we should know what this means already. Because he had it a number of times in this Masechta. That one person says halacha, the next person says minhag, and the next person says nohaguam. What does it mean? So we had it already. Halacha means I go and I announce it in public. I say this is the halacha. Halacha is like Rameir. Or minhag. In other words, if somebody comes to me privately on a one-on-one basis, knocks on my door, asks the Rav, Rabbi, what's the halacha? I'll whisper him, I'll tell him, you could do like Rameir, it's okay. But I'm not going to go b'fnei kol am ve'eda and announce it in a public arena in front of a yeshiva. And then you have if a guy comes knocks on the rabbi's door, the rabbi is going to ignore him. He won't tell him about Rameir. But if he went and did like Rameir we're not going to do anything about it. We'll just let it slide. The question that arises here is, it says, Omar Rav Yilom Rav, halacha ki Reb Meir. So, minhag ki Reb Meir. What does that mean, minhag ki Reb Meir? So Rashi even says, you don't make a macha, v'avad lo mechinan le. So, the problem is, Reb Meir is machmir. Reb Meir says you need two. You need an eruv and you need a shituf. What kind of macha am I going to do? If a guy wants to go out of the halacha, let's say the halacha is all you need is one, and he decided to go like Rameir, he's a bad person because he went like Rameir. I'm going to make him a macha. I'm going to get up and say, what you did is wrong. So he did a chala and he did a bottle of wine. What's the big deal? Says Taisves, the big deal is, according to one pshat, because he made two brachas. Maybe there's a bracha of atala over here. If the halacha is not like Rameir, all you need is one bracha. All you need is one shituf, and that's enough for Erev. So if he did like Rameir, I'm not going to yell at him. You know, I'm not going to tell him he made a bracha levatala. Zot Tehilim Mishnah. Micha Kaplan. We have a Mishnah, so we can say Shalom Aleichem to a few people here. Joel Pollack, Baruch Hashem, still on. Simon Cohen is not riding his bike, he's on. Gewaldig. My voice is still shoddy. Hamburg, Gewaldig. Oh, Yosef and Zev, I miss you. Where's Rabbi Yoel Bergman? I don't know. And Moshe Hirsch, of course, is on because he's sponsoring tonight and he's always on. Andrew Glatz is on. Gewaldig. Okay, Meir Sherman. Kol HaChevra. Jeff is on. Reb Pesach. Okay. Mishnah. Chamisha chaburois sheshofsu betraklin echad. It's just interesting that I saw in the Ramah says that when you make in his days, what they would do is each person had to make a eruv. Each person would bring some flour, and together they would bake a challah with everybody's flour. He just goes on to say, different halacha, it doesn't paskin like Rameir exactly. Okay, fine. Chamisha, and this is machlokes Rashi and Tosfos here, exactly where you put the shituf. Do you have to put the shituf in the house? Or, okay, fine. Lo mishaneh. Says the Mishnah, Chamisha chabur, sheshavsu betraklin echad. So it's interesting, you have 5 groups that are in one mansion. How do we view them? Does the mansion make them one chabura, one eruv? Or do they all need separate eruvim? Let's say there's a chatzar and there's other people there. Do they all go with one eruv because they're all in one house, one giant house, different groups? So does it go by the house? The one house brings out one loaf of bread and the rest of the chatzar, each person brings a loaf of bread? Or it's each group within that traklin, like a bed and breakfast kind of thing, you know, like different. Here's this room is one mishpacha, another room is another mishpacha. What exactly is going on here? How are they separated? What kind of walls? That we have a major machlokes in the Gemara. Are they serious walls? Are they small walls? Do they go up to the ceiling? Is it made out of real material? What's going on? Beis Shammai yoimrim eruv lekol chabura v'chabura. Say Beis Shammai that each group needs to participate in the eruv. Beis Hillel yoimrim eruv echad lekulan. No, it's considered the traklin, the mansion, makes everybody into one chabura, and all they need is one eruv. Umoidim bizman shemiktsasam shruim b'chadarim oy ba'aliyos, and the Gemara is going to explain what the big chiddush is. If one group is in the attic, aliyos, you hear Avi Sherman, the aliyos, you're in the attic, you're in the aliyah. You're having an aliyah. He took it as in mamish, like an aliyah. You're going higher. You're getting closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So if one group is in the aliyah, the attic, the other group is down in the basement, of course they have to bring different eruvim. So what's the chiddush exactly? Of course, they're like different rooms, the different sections. Or different rooms. Shemtzichim eruv lekol chabura v'chabura. Now, I think we should just jump into Tosfos for a second. Just interesting stuff here. We'll go through it really quickly. The really large Tosfos. Umaydim should be miktasan. I guess there's 2 of them. But the bottom one, umaydim should be miktasan shruim b'chadarim. So if you go like 4 lines down, if you have people in one house, of course, it's one eruv. Says Tosfos, umiu im yesh la'adam sofer or milamed beis. We're going to see a little bit more of it later on in the next few dapim. Different types of people that come together, the children, etc. But over here, Tosfos says, "Im yesh l'adam sofer, oy melamed bebeisoi." He has a rebbe, he has a sofer. Oy ke'ein oisan abachurim. This is interesting. We know about this, but we're so far removed from it. Bachurim habayim lilmoy Torah. You have bachurim that live in your house. They don't live in that city, and they come to you to learn Torah. So do they have to make another eruv? Where do these bachrim live? They don't live with you in your bedroom. They have their own room, of course. He says, even though it's one eruv. Why? So if you jump a couple of lines down, he says, they all go to the same kitchen. They use the same bathroom. They do the same thing. Ba'afiyah, ubebishul, ubechol davar. They use your stove, your oven, and your refrigerator. Chashivi kulu kilo oichlin v'shein b'mokim echad. So they all consider one. I thought it was an interesting taisus. Okay, next. Omer of Nachman. So what we have here is we have here 6 shitas, really. Easy things. 2 of them, they're actually the reverse of each other. So, we have here Rav Nachman in one lashon says the machloikis is b'mesipas. Machloikis in our Mishnah between Bisham and Beis Hillel is when it's a very weak wall. When the wall is not made out of strong material like flimsy wood, but there's no machloikis if it's a solid mechitza. The second lashon of Rav Nachman is the exact reverse. The machloikis is not exact reverse, but the machloikis is even with a mechitza. Okay, so that's 2 shitas. Then we have Reb Chia and Reb Shimon. I didn't have enough room to put the other name in there. I just call him Reb Chia. The machloikis is if it reaches the ceiling. If the mechitza goes all the way up to the ceiling, then you have a machloikis. But if it doesn't reach the ceiling, everybody agrees that they're separated. That it's one chabura. If it reaches the ceiling, then we have machloikis whether they're separated or not. But if it doesn't reach the ceiling, it's a half a wall. It's one house. Then everybody in the house is one. And then you have the same Reb Chia and Reb Shimon. We don't know who says what. The reverse. The machloikis is when it doesn't reach the ceiling. But if it reaches the ceiling, how can you have a machloikis? It's a different room. And then you have 5th shitas, machloikis, when nothing to do with walls. A traklin is one mansion, brings everything together. The machloikis is when they took the eruv and they brought it to the other guy, to the neighbor. That's where the machloikis is. But if the eruv was within the mansion, everybody agrees that you don't have to make more than one eruv. And then you have the reverse of that. Or the machloikis is when they come to the mansion and the eruv is in the mansion, then you have a machloikis. But if you go out of the mansion, everybody agrees, even Beis Hillel agree, you need another eruv. Let's see it inside. That's basically today's sugya. This one, put over here somewhere. Okay. Not going to work. Here. Zog the Gemara, Omer Rav Nachman. Machloikis b'mesipas. The whole machloikis is when you have some sort of picture here. Let me see what we have here. So first of all, here's a picture from the Hadar. Here's your 5 rooms. 5 people living in one giant house. As you can see, shorter walls. Machloikis, let's call this a mesipas. Here's the machloikis. But if it was a mechitza, so it's funny, in the Kol HaLashon Sefer, I couldn't make out the difference between mesipas and mechitza. It has a blow up right over here, mechitza. Kitzer, beautiful picture, 5 doors. And if you look over here, there's a wall, there are little walls, shorter walls. One is a mesipas, one is a mechitza. We understand what that is. Machloikis b'mesipas, it's when it's a weird, like a flimsy wall. But if you have a starker wall that's 10 tfachim, then of course even Beis Shammai agree. Even Beis Hillel agree that each group needs a mechitza, eruv. Iked Amri, Omer Rav Nachman. Some say that Rav Nachman said differently. Af b'mesipas machloikis. There's a machloikis in a mechitza, and there's a machloikis in mesipas. There's always a machloikis. There's no category that everybody agrees on. And now, this is an argument on what Rav Nachman just said. Another 2 shitas. Reb Chia and Reb Shimon Rebbe. What is the argument between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai? Chad Omar machloikis b'mechitzos hamagilos latikra. It's not nothing to do with if it's 10 tfachim, not 10 tfachim. Machlokes is, do these walls reach the ceiling? If the walls reach the ceiling, or don't reach the ceiling, machlokes b'mechitzas hamagiyos l'tikra. If the walls don't reach the ceiling, then everybody agrees it's one open house, one eruv. But if they reach the ceiling, they still say one eruv b'shamas hinat. Avo mechitzas she'im magiyos l'tikra. It's open space to everybody. So you have a little partition somewhere, there's another group, but it's one house, one eruv. Or perhaps no, the reverse. Machlokes b'mechitzos she'ei magiyos l'tikra. The whole machlokes is when the mechitzos don't come to the ceiling, because they're saying, what? How does it make any sense? Mechitzos hamagiyos l'tikra divrei hakol tzrichum eruv l'kol chabura v'chabura. That makes a lot of sense. If the partitions go all the way up to the ceiling, so you have different rooms. So what's the tzad not like that? Because these are flimsier mechitzos. Maybe they're not completely separate rooms. Today's turning of the Daf Amud Beis is in memory of my mother, Shendel Bat Aaron Hirsch and Bracha, by her son, Dr. Alan Listhaus. Zog the Gemara Meisvei. Omar turning to Daf Amud Beis, Omar Rabbi Yehuda Hasabar. You'll never see this name again in Shas. Once in a lifetime. Rabbi Yehuda, the sharp one, says Rashi. Rabbi Nachanal says a little different. Rabbi Yehuda, I guess, he was somebody else that we don't not familiar with. A Tana, Brisa. What does it say in the Brisa? Lo nechleku beishamai ubeisilal al mechitzos hamagiyos letikra. There is no machlokes between beishamai and beisilal if the mechitzos reach the ceiling. Shetzrichon eruv lekol chabur v'chabura. This is like what we just said. That if the mechitzos come all the way to the ceiling, there's no machlokes. It's a separated rooms. It's like a hotel. It's like different houses. Who cares if it's a giant mansion? The whole machlokes is if the mechitzah does not reach the ceiling, you still have to make an eruv for each group. They're considered one house. Now, so the Gemara says, based on this brisa, we have a major problem with everything that we learned besides the last shita. 3 out of the 4 shitas are off. So, shita number 3, that the machlokes is magiya l'tikra. We just said that there is no machlokes if it gets to the ceiling. If the mechitzos reach the ceiling, that's a beautiful division. It's a great partition. Nobody argues. Of course, it's considered different houses. So why are you telling me there's a machlokes when it gets to the ceiling? So this brisa Rabbi Yehuda is a stira to number 3. Number 4, that there's no machlokes when it gets to the ceiling. That's exactly what we just said. Beautiful. So that's a good right to them. Now let's go to the beginning. Machlokes b'mesipas. Rav Nachman's first lashon. Machlokes b'mesipas. The machlokes is when it's very, very weak. Meaning, what if it's not weak? What if it's a starke mechitza, not a flimsy piece of wood? L'chayra, beisil b'mayda, that you don't need, that you do need a eruv and eruv. That's a very strong mechitza. It separates it. Tiyufta. We're just saying that a mechitza is that the whole machlokes is a mechitza that don't get to the ceiling. In other words, it's a mechitza that doesn't reach the ceiling, and that's where the machlokes is. According to Rav Nachman, the whole machlokes is in a flimsy mechitza. If it's a strong mechitza, there is no machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda Saber says, no, there is a machlokes in a strong mechitza. Forget about a flimsy. There's even a machlokes in a strong mechitza. That's a problem with Rav Nachman. To Yufta, Elo lahach lishna. What about the second Rav Nachman? Lahach lishna the Omer Rav Nachman af b'mesipas machloikis. Lema tihevet to Yufta. So it's mashma that Shammai are moida in that case. So it's a tiyufta. Even in Mesipas Machloikis. In other words, there's Machloikis in Mesipas, and there's Machloikis even in a Mechitza. But what we're saying now is that in Mechitza, Beis Shammai argue. They're not moida. He's saying there's Machloikis even in Mechitza, and now we're saying not like that. Le'im tehevet tiyufta. Amar Rav Nachman, pligi b'mechitza, v'hu adin b'mesipas. No, your diuk is wrong. V'ha dekomifligi b'mechitza. Why is there machlokes here in mechitza? You're saying no, in mesipas not. B'lo ydiacha koichon the base hillel. That even the reason why we argued over here in mechitza is to tell you that even a strong wall, Beis Hillel hold that it's considered one. A strong wall doesn't divide it up. As the Gemara of V'liflegi b'mesipas le'diacha koichen Beis Shammai. So let us, if you want to tell us how far they go, Beis Hillel will say, even in a brick wall, there's no division. It's considered one house. It's a tremendous chiddush, right? So tell me the opposite chiddush. Tell me, even in a flimsy wall, Beis Shammai say it's considered a division. Why is that a chiddush? I'd rather tell you a kula than to tell you a chumrah. To tell you that a brick wall, a bunch of brick walls, and they're all considered one house, that's a tremendous chiddush. That's a bigger chiddush than to tell me that a bunch of flimsy walls are considered 5 different houses. Omer Rav Nachman Omer Rav, halacha k'Rabbi Yehuda hasabar. That when the walls come to the ceiling, there's no machlokes. Everybody agrees that it's a division. Even Beis Hillel agree that you have to make different Eruvin. Omer Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Masni Sanami Daiko Diktani, and now we're going to go to the last part of the Mishnah. We had a little bit of a problem. Avi Sherman's part of the Mishnah. Diktani Umoidim Bizmanchim Iktasim Shruim B'Chadorim U'Ba'aliyos. When people are working out of the attic and in different rooms. Says the Gemara, what are we talking about? What kind of attic? What kind of rooms? You're talking about a real attic, a real room, pshita. Of course, you have one family living in the attic. It happens all the time. People rent out an attic, and somebody else rents out a room. The different houses. Why shouldn't we require from them different eruvim? Pshita. Elav ke'ein chadorim u'ke'ein aliyah. It's not mamish an aliyah. It's ki'ilu. There's an aliyah. It's ki'ilu. It's an attic. What does that mean? Ki'ilu. It's as if u'mayniu mechitzis hamegiyos latikra shma mino. So we're not talking about a real attic. We're not talking about real rooms. We're talking about partitions. They made sukkahs in the middle of a mansion. They took a giant ballroom and they partitioned it off. And that's considered as if this family is in the attic and this family is in the basement, but it's not really that they're in the attic, because if they were really in the attic, then there's no chiddush at all. The chiddush is that he took a giant dining room. He said, I'm from Eretz Yisrael. I can live in 5 feet by 5 feet, and that's my house. And memela, I have to make my own eruv. Tana. And here we have a fifth shita. What, according to Rashi, what the machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel will be. Bemed dvar mamurim kishemoylichem es eruvim l'makom acher. When do we have a machlokes? In other words, the Traklin, Rabbi side, the Traklin, this mansion, according to everybody, I don't care what the chitzes are, it's considered one. It's one house. So if it's one house, when I make an eruv, we don't need to make it. We're all in this together. But if we're going to start with other people, with neighbors, that's where we come into a problem. That's where we have a machlokes. But if the Eruv is by them, since within their house they're considered one, and everybody's bringing the Eruv to them, then there's no machlokes derei. But perhaps if I need to take my Eruv and bring it to the next door neighbor, so since we're leaving, then we all need to participate in it. My entire house has to participate. Once I'm leaving, we all have to participate. So in Mela, that's the shaila. Do we all have to bring a separate Eruv? Or no, one guy will be the shliach for everybody. Look, we're all in this together. So maybe Beisil say one person is the shliach and he'll do it for everybody else. So if so, kiman azlo hadatanya chamisha shegavu es Eruvan. They gathered 5 Eruvs. They're going outside of the house. Eruv echad lekulan. All you need is one Eruv. So who does this go according to? According to Bishamai, you need an Eruv for each and every one. So this must be going, Kaman Beis Hillel. This must be going according to Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel hold, the trackland, the mansion, even if you go to the neighbor, all you need is one Eruv. That's according to this pshat. And now, the 6th and final shita, V'ikda Amrei Bamedvar Ma'amurim, Kishahaya Eruv Ba Etzlam. When the Eruv comes to them, then we have a machloikis, Avalim Hayu Ma'lichin Es Eruvim L'makam Acher, Divrei HaKol Tzrichen Eruv L'kol Chabura V'Chabura. Even Beis Hillel would agree that once we're leaving the trackland, then it's all over. Everybody has to bring an Eruv. The machlokes is within the trackland. That Beis Shammai say each person has to bring their own Eruv. So therefore, this is what we just read before. Kimanaz lo hadasanya. So how do we figure this out? 5 people that gather an Eruv. When they bring it outside, which we just said everybody agrees, even Beis Hillel agree, that you need an Eruv for each and every person. What does this say? Eruv echad lekulam. All you need is one. But even Beis Hillel, you need 5. Kiman, like chad. This can't be according to not Bishamai. Bishamai certainly say you need 5 Eruvim. And according to this man, the Amar, even Beis Hillel says you need 5 Eruvim because you left the trackland. So we don't know how to fix this base. All right. What's interesting, if you think about it, I don't know about in America. I didn't see so much in America, but in Israel, even in the shul that we daven in Bnei Yeshivas, you have kapsulot. You have these mechitzos that this mission is talking about. This whole it's like these flimsy walls that are a little bit more than 10 tfachim, made out of plexiglass. I never saw it in America. I don't know. Maybe in America they also have it. It's like literally little boxes for 4 or 5 people, 10 people, whatever it is. I never understood it. I don't understand how it works because bacteria. I'm not a scientist, but I would assume the bacteria that fly above, a 5-foot plexiglass. But anyway, and that's why maybe those kapsulat failed in all the yeshivas. But that's what they have. This Mishnah right here, the Sugi of our Mishnah. Oh, they didn't? They work? Your son had corona, no? Wasn't he? What?
That was after yeshiva. There were 6 weeks in yeshiva. Everything was big.
Yeah, but Parosh that has the kapsula that in Bnei Yeshivas, they had 90 guys that had corona.
We don't want to lashon hara.
Okay. No lashon hara. Kapsula work. Menachem Ates says kapsula work. Plexiglass works. Just not 10 tfachim because your head is above 10 tfachim, so you need like 20 tfachim, whatever it is, 15 tfachim. All right, the Seder, whatever. But I'm saying we have a better understanding of what it is. You have a room divided with these funny mechitzas that einu magim latikra. Zog the Mishnah. So we're continuing with this theme, this idea of different people in the chutzner. Are they one? Are they not one? How they connect to each other, and how many Eruvim do they need? So you have brothers that are supported by the father, but they have their own little rooms. They all eat together dinner nicely, like a nice American mishpacha, one table, and then they disperse. They go into their own houses in the chutzner. The Gemara is going to start off saying, oh, you see that it goes by where you sleep and not where you eat. So if one of the brothers forgot to make an Eruv, since he's mechuyev to make an Eruv, each and every brother, so then we could do the concept of bittul. You could relinquish your rishos, and you have to relinquish your rishos. You can't say, oh, I'm a brother, I'm part of the mishpacha. No, you ruin it for everybody else. So if they bring their Eruv to another house within the Chatzar, so Rashi says there's like a migo here, they aser on the other people, so they aser for themselves, they have to bring the Eruv out to the other guy, but if they're bringing the Eruv to them, or nobody else lives there, it's one mishpacha, they own the whole thing, then you don't have to make an Eruv. So again, if the Eruv comes to them, to this mishpacha, or there's no one else living there, you don't need another Eruv. You don't have to make this here. Says the Gemara Shmas Mina, so you see from this Mishnah, look, they're all eating at the same table, so it's nothing to do with the Suda. It has everything to do with where you sleep. I'm going to see machlokes in this. Not a good raya. Why? We're talking about really spoiled kids. Father gives them a place to sleep, and he also delivers the food to them. So it's not pshat they're all eating around the same table, but he provides them with food. Excuse me. Tarabana. Mi sheyesh lo beis shar achsadra murpeses. So let's see if we have this here. Beis shar is like a little bit of a, I don't know, like a lobby sort of. Beis shar, like a hall. Achsadra, like a gazebo, right over here. And in Repeses, we'll call it like this. Repeses really, if you look at Rashi, I think it was like Nun Tes Amud Beis. Last Rashi in the bottom, he describes it a little bit like a lobby, actually. Maybe not. So this is good. This is what? The Beis Shar vestibule? The Beis Shar is more of a vestibule. Yeah. And this is in Repeses. This is nice. I think this fits nicely into Rashi. Here the doors are open to open. We had this, remember we had this sugya with the daka. Okay. Says the Gemara, Mishi Yeshle Beis Shar. In the Chatzar, he owns the vestibule. He owns the Achsadra, Omer Pesas, he owns the porch over here. B'chatzar Chavera. Hareze Enu Yoter Olav. He doesn't require an Eruv, because all he has is a porch. Beis HaTeven, however, if he has a room for his hay, Beis HaBakar, Givaldik, in the middle of, one of my employees called me up, I was just thinking about this yesterday, one of my employees, he worked for me for like 15 years, and he moved out to Tennessee. I said, what's going on, Tim? He's like, oh, he has 4 goats, 30 chickens, he gives me a whole list of stuff that he has. That's how they used to live in those days. In the middle of the Chatzar, he has a bunch of cattle. Believe it or not, this requires an Eruv. Beis Ha'etzim, Beis Ha'itzaros. Here, Beis Ha'itzaros. If you look closely in these pictures, you see some wood peeking out of the door. A little storage facility. Hareze Oyser Olav. Comes Rabbi Yehuda, probably this is what you're thinking to yourself. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eno Oyser Elo Mokim Dira Belvad. You need a residential room, not a room for cattle, not a room for wood. Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Maisa Beben Apacha, Shahoyloi Chomish Chatzeres Busha. There's a person, Ben Apcha, Ben Apacha. He owned 5 different chatzeres. So they said, what? He's going to ask for 5 different chatzeres. He has to make 5 different eruvim. Whatever could be lived in. Says the Gemara, what? Because you could, but he doesn't. He doesn't live there. He lives over there. He doesn't live over here. Elo'ema makom dira. The place where he lives, that's the only one that is mechuyev in an Eruv. Boisai, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And now we're going to say some Tehilim for those that want to stick around.
כביסנה נפשי ולבו אכלתי. אשר אינם משלמים לבוקר שומעים לבוקר. יחל ישראל אל אדוני כי מלא יחסד והרבה מה יפדו. ובפתס ישראל מכל בני סב. אחינו כבי ישראל נצאים בשר ושיבה עמדים במאה בשבת.
Hey.